We're really excited to have Laura Davidson back from Shure. Laura is the Senior Market Development Manager for Shure, and Shure has a new product. How convenient! And I think we actually had Laura coming on to talk about other things, but we might as well get it out of the way that you have a new mic. Welcome back, Laura.
Thank you. So good to be back.
Yeah, it's so good to have you. So, I mean, I'm just going to jump to it because otherwise people will keep on asking. Because again, we had scheduled Laura before this, and then it was like, oh, there's a new mic coming out right before us. What's the news? What's the new mic?
Well, the new mic, you're hearing it right now. It's called the SM4. Home recording microphone is what we say on the box, but it's for much more than that. It is a side address large diaphragm condenser, which it's not the first one we've made. It won't be the last one, but it is a very exciting new design for us. Totally new industrial design, totally new diaphragm design. It's actually dual diaphragm, which is kind of reminiscent of our KSM8. It's not the same, but similar. And what you get when you have that dual diaphragm technology is that it's going to be blocking out the lower end frequencies, reducing proximity effect, and also providing some inherent plosive blocking, even without this awesome windscreen that comes with it that's magnetic, by the way. So you can get it in the variant I just held up.
It's magnetic? Wait, you're going to have to show us. You have to show us the magnetic. Oop.
That's it.
That's awesome.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, I'll show you on this one too, close up. So here's my shock mount. And it just goes on like that.
That's cool.
Yeah. So totally new shock mount design, totally new windscreen. Capsule is just a very cool design. And as of course, you can see this new kind of look for us as opposed to our SM57, which is currently wrapped in a cable on my desk for some reason, but here you go. So current, previous design, new design. It's exciting. So that just launched yesterday.
And it's XLR?
It is, correct. Yes. So I'm running into an interface and it doesn't have any switches on the back. So this is targeted more towards those who are getting into home recording and just kind of starting out and don't want to spend tons of money, but want to have a microphone that's going to be versatile and great for many different applications. So we've tried it on everything you can imagine. I've got a cool video coming out with Produce Like a Pro, showcasing how it can be used on guitar, drums, bass, vocals, and it's holding up. The SPL is extremely high, so you can put it on a cabinet with confidence. And it sounds incredible. It cuts out the lows to the point where you don't have rumble, but doesn't compromise by making it too bright. It's just a really natural sounding microphone.
And if you wanted to connect it via USB and you didn't want to put it through a whole interface, you could use something like the X2U just to pop it in, and that would give you a USB-C connection.
What a great question, Alex. Yes, you could. This is the MBX2U. So this is a single channel interface, which I might be using as well, but it's off camera. So I have one for show and tell.
I have been using the X2Us since they were longer with the little headphone adjuster and everything. I mean, I had one in my bag for, a decade, and it just looks all beat up. All the paint has come off and everything else. And they're great, and that one was like USB-B.
I know.
Like the square.
The one that's like shaped like a house. Yeah, like the printer USB cable. That's what I call it.
Yeah,
that's not the technical term. Don't crucify me, people. But yes, that one.
Well, that's great.
So we improved it. And it has USB-C.
Is it shipping?
It's shipping now. Yes.
Oh, that's great. It's great.
Yes.
I can't wait to play with it. Yeah, it sounds. A lot of us are sending out mics. I mean, the MB7 and the MB7 Plus are what a lot of us have used to send those out. How is this distinguished as far as sound goes between like something like an MB7 Plus and the MP4?
Well, it's funny you ask because I have my MB7 Plus. If you'd like me to switch over and do a little comparison shop, how about that?
That sounds great.
Here we go. Just bring her into the shot like that.
There we go. Look at that. And this is the MB7 Plus.
This is the MB7 Plus. So hopefully you're still able to hear me. And as I knock over my SM4, which is durable, so it doesn't matter. So differences: side address condenser, dynamic microphone, both cardioid, so similar polar pattern, exact same polar pattern. Better for untreated environments because it's a dynamic is the MV7 Plus. Also, it's USB XLR hybrid, so you have both of those choices. Whereas the SM4 is more geared towards home recording, musicians, studio, etc. But if you have a nicer treated space, or if you do get up close to the microphone, it does alleviate a lot of that room noise that condensers are more prone to. Plus, because it has that onboard plosive blocking, just because of the diaphragm, you can get a lot closer than you normally would. So I haven't had as much bleed as I thought I would, but that's the difference. So I'll switch back over to my SM4, and now you're hearing that. So
right, so it has kind of a fullness to it, a little less present than the MV7, or at least to my ear, but a little bassier, I guess I would say. A little bit more in the bass there. So that's really good. But without losing it, without a lot of the heavier sounds. Now, I'm going to ask you something, because when we were prepping for this, I noticed that you went to school in Berkeley. I think we might have talked about it in passing the last time.
I did.
My daughter just got back from a week at Berkeley. So she was, this is Berkeley, the Berkeley Music
College
in Boston.
of Music, yes.
So they do a recruiting thing, and they flew her out and put her up and let her play with other artists she's 14 or 15. So,
oh my gosh, that's great.
So they were recruiting her, and so she plays a lot of instruments. That's all at once.
That's amazing.
She's in a bunch of bands. So anyway, but I just had to ask you, how was the experience at Berkeley?
The experience was incredible. Granted, it was a long time ago, but it was like going to rock and roll college. I mean, it was legit. Like when you watched the show Fame and you saw people like dancing around and singing in the hallways, that was how it was. It was very hard and challenging. And a lot of people joke that if you stay in Berkeley, then you won't succeed, but it's actually harder to graduate and get all the way through. So I'm very proud of being able to say that I did that. And it served me very well. It's an incredible school, and it's gotten even more incredible since I graduated. The facilities are amazing. The studios are amazing. So I get to go back a couple times a year. And one of my colleagues, Yuri, actually graduated from there as well. So we get to go back there and hang with the students and tell them that there are other things you can do in the music industry aside from being a rock star when you graduate from Berkeley.
Now, if you were talking to, again, I'm being very selfish because I have you here, and you're a great musician as well as working at Shure. If you were talking to your 15-year-old self, what advice, would you give yourself?
Practice, and then practice some more, and appreciate the time. You're going to feel so bored and so boxed in, but time is the one thing that you can't buy, and you need to take advantage of it for as long as you can, because you can't bank it and save it for later.
Yeah, and what's always amazing is that when you're in high school, if you manage it well, you have a lot of time, a lot more time than we end up having later. And I know that my daughter spends probably 4 hours a day across the instruments practicing.
So
you'll see her just jump from drums to keyboard to guitar to bass, and she usually gets through all of them in one day. so it's
good for her.
Yeah. So, but so it sounds like she's on the right path so far.
Yes.
So,
and learn too. Like we didn't have YouTube when I was coming up. So, you can have that ability to learn from so many others who are out there doing it and just expand your skill set.
Yeah. What I'm amazed by in the technology now is she started learning drums. She had 2 months to do a gig, and no one else knew how to play drums, and she figured she'd figure it out. And so I got her an electronic one.
Yeah.
And for learning, the advantage was we use this program called Moises. I don't know if you've played with that or not. It strips it takes the song and just strips all the parts out. So it just pulls out all
so you
the
could do music minus and just
so then she could
isolate?
Play to the drums because she feeds it from her phone into the drum set. And so she can hear her drums as drums, and she can play with the other drums until she feels like she's got it down. And then she turns off the drums and plays with the song.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And I was like, it's just the education or the learning now is so.
That's something we did not have. I'll have to tell my 10-year-old. We got her a set of V-drums for her birthday. So that could be kind of a fun tool.
It's so great. I think it connects via Bluetooth, like to your phone.
Oh my goodness.
And then Moises is the thing that we use. And it's just, Apple does it now a little bit inside of Logic, but Moises does, it's more detailed, as far as pulling everything apart. So it's really cool. Nice. We have so many questions stacking up for you. So we're just going to jump right in. Let's go to the first question.
First one comes from Jeff Feely in Henderson, Texas. Laura, would you kindly contrast the new SM4 with the mics in the MV7 line?
I'm afraid I might have taken I didn't see that question before we asked it, but go ahead.
Oh, no, that's fine. So that's actually a great question. And the differences being MV7 is a dynamic microphone. It's a USB XLR hybrid microphone, whereas the SM4 is an XLR condenser microphone. And was it also MV7 and SM7 in the line they wanted compared, or just MV7?
They said the MV7 line, so wherever you want to go with that. Yeah,
so MV7, there's also the MV7X, which is an XLR-only variant of the MV7, which would get you, in the same form factor as an SM4, but they are wildly different creatures, just the fundamental being the dynamic and condenser. So we do recommend the MV7 line for those in less than perfect environments.
Next question.
Paul Wallace, Austin, Texas. How would you compare the features of the new SM4 to the SM7B and the M7, the latter being two very popular mics among office hours folks and the podcasting community?
Yeah, great question. So if I were to just say if you're going to be using it exclusively for spoken word or podcasting, I would definitely steer you towards, if you can go for it, the SM7B or SM7DB, simply because it has the best isolation, off-axis rejection, and it's the legend for a reason. And then next step would be the MV7, MV7 Plus, because it has that also voice isolating technology. And you can also control it via some DSP using Motiv Mix. So if you're wanting a microphone to wear multiple hats, though, and you have a space that you can actually kind of control acoustically, then you could go with something like the SM4 without having to worry too much about reducing room reflections.
Next question.
A lot of these came in really early this morning, and this is one of them. Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York says, got an email yesterday about the new SM4. Looks pretty awesome. Anyone had a chance to use it yet? Are they out in the wild?
And it sounds like they are. So you can order them from Sweetwater, B&H.
They are out. Shure.com. Amazon. Yep, absolutely.
And
they're
Shure.com,
out and about.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I mean, we want you to shop at our retailers, but we do have them for sale too.
That's great. How do you guys handle, this is the funny thing about direct purchases. How do you handle returns? Like, is it a pretty straightforward thing? Because I know that what locks me into Amazon for the most part, and to some Sweetwater and B&H, is that I don't have to think very much about sending it back. Like if I don't like something, I just put it in a box and send it.
Yeah, no, you can do. We have a return policy as well. It's all coordinated through our Shure.com back-end side of things through a company called Retail Solutions. So, the system is very simple to navigate, and the shipping is oftentimes free and super fast. So, I have a great experience on Shure.com shopping.
That's awesome. Yeah, good, Courtney.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to use it. This one new feature that I saw in the specs of this micro is the tiny mesh Faraday cage that it has inside the regular perforated metal outside of the microphone.
Yes.
Do you have that in any of the other microphones? And it's probably a godsend these days when everybody has their phone sitting on the table right next to where the microphone is. That is going to create some RF interference in a high output condenser microphone. So that looks like a new feature.
Oh, Courtney, thank you so much for reminding me to say one of the most important features that I haven't had enough coffee to remember yet. That is, yes, that Faraday cage is an RF interference blocker, which is something that many people don't take into account. But if you are, let's say you're recording, like I often am, and I have my phone here with my lyrics, which I have to have this close because I'm going, I'm older, getting blind. So you might have that RF noise. And you also, if you're near your screens, can have that interference. So yes, it is technology, patent pending technology to block an RF shield. So thanks for bringing that up.
It's interesting. I have one corner in my room, and I don't know why, but if a mic is at a certain angle in that corner, and there's nothing there, like it must be something outside, but I can hear buzz. If I just turn it, I can hear a buzz. And if I move it like a couple inches, it goes away. But that's why my mic is over here. It used to be over there. And I kept on playing with it. And every time I got it in the wrong place, I would get this buzz. And I decided if I'm hearing the buzz in the phone, in the microphone, it's probably not good for me. So I decided to go somewhere else in the room.
Fair. Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. Next question.
Pedro G. Gonzalez in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, up next. Looking at your wireless microphone systems, it can sometimes be a bit confusing identifying the true differences and use cases of each. Can you please describe the characteristics amongst the PGX-D, the QLX-D, the SLX-D, and the ULX-D lines?
Yeah, Pedro. I mean, first of all, it's confusing enough with alphabet soup, as we call it with our product lines, but there is logic and reason to all of our naming. Let's start with PGX-D is discontinued. So let's start with BLX. That is our still only remaining analog system, true analog. And the differences between our wireless systems is really the more you pay, the more frequency space you get. So the more channels you can fit into that megahertz region. So if you're using QLX-D, for example, as opposed to ULX-D, when you step up to ULX-D, you get advantages like encryption. So if you're using that in a conferencing solution or a scenario where you don't want people to be able to listen in on your meetings or your wireless transmissions, you have that. So it's really, at its core, wireless works the same amongst all of these systems. It's just when you pay more, you get increased channel count, more features that you can coordinate remotely, more transmission distance. So I hope I'm helping to answer that. But it's basically, if you look at Shure.com, we actually just relaunched the website, and there's some better tools for kind of deciding which system is right for you. That's the main thing. So if you want to have wider tuning frequency options, you would go to a higher system like a ULX-D or an Axient Digital.
I was going to say the Axient was left out of that, which is the one that I use the most commonly. So you would, but the Axient is just again another step up from the ULX.
Correct. That's the flagship, top of the line. Then ULX-D, then QLX-D, then SLX-D, then BLX. I don't think I left anybody out.
And the Axient, when it went digital, it got a lot less expensive per channel, right? I mean, it was kind of an odd thing for it to become more modern and less expensive.
Right. That was by design, but yes.
It's great. Made us so happy.
It's a great system, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
It's an amazing system. Yeah, go ahead, Marty.
I'm just wondering, with alphabet soup, if there's a pattern here. With the first letter being higher in the alphabet, does that indicate a better system? And, I seem to be running out of letters.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't indicate that. And I don't actually know what our naming, where they landed on that. I know the history, and I knew it at one point, but I can't remember where or how we landed on that. But no, that doesn't determine it. So there's a lot more alphabets or letters in the alphabet, but yeah, we're trying to get a little more towards named products like the Nexadyne mic that we talked about last time, giving that a series name that you can remember.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of say, I mean, like when people are looking at these different products, it's important to understand that this is essentially like the open ocean, right? And RF it's a pretty volatile thing, actually. And depending on your location, it can get incredibly more congested and difficult to actually like get a production in a smooth way versus places that are really, really not occupied. So it just, radio stations, TV stations, all these things. And so when you are looking at this stuff, if you're an international touring artist, you might be in some really hairy situations, right? So it really behooves you to actually go ahead and get these things. Also, RF laws are changing constantly, and I believe that really when you invest in these higher quality lines, the longevity of what you have to go forward with, it gives you a ton more option. And so I think if things get tight in the future, you can still kind of finagle that a little bit better. So
next question.
Next one comes to us from David Brady in New York City, and he says a number of users in this community leverage Rogue Amoeba's Loopback for virtual audio routing. How can we migrate to Shure Motiv?
And can Shure Motiv do most of those things?
It can do some, but not all. Not the same as the Rogue Amoeba. So Motiv Mix is our mixing platform that we launched when we launched the MV7 Plus and Move Mic. And it allows you to route multiple sources through your computer, similar to Loopback. So you can take your inputs and your virtual inputs and your outputs and choose the routing internally in your computer. But it won't do mix minus yet. Hopefully we will be getting to a stage there where we can do that. But it does allow you to have up to 5 USB sources routed through one computer, which is very beneficial. So if you have a multiple guest podcast, you don't need an interface. You can use USB microphones and route it all through Motiv Mix.
Next question.
Paul Wallace in Austin, Texas, up next. And Paul wonders, how does the new Shure SM4 work with Shure's and other vendors' DSP routing and mixing solutions?
Well, it's an XLR mic. So any DSP would be processed and done by the actual platform or DAW that you're using. So there is no onboard DSP, but it's an XLR mic that can be put through any of that processing that you choose.
And I'm curious that there wasn't that, or maybe I'm asking too much right now, but it seems like for a home mic, having a USB-C like the MV series would make sense. Was there a kind of a decision just to stick with the XLR for cost or for?
No, it was more that we are making a definite decision to refresh our large diaphragm condenser line. So to have that more traditional studio XLR form factor was a very conscious decision and keeps it outside of that MV7 line.
Right. Absolutely. Next question.
Mickey Makachor, Manila in the Philippines, and here on the panel with the Axient AD610 ShowLink access point. Is there an approved or recommended external antenna system to more optimize coverage and range, or is the only recommended solution to get more ShowLink APs?
That's a great question, and Axient Digital is outside of my area of expertise, so I cannot answer that one for you, but I can find the answer for you.
Next question.
Pedro G. Gonzalez III in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. When using external antennas with your wireless microphone systems, is the antenna distribution system needed, or can we simply plug in the wireless antennas directly into the receivers?
That's a good question, and I always recommend using antenna distro when using external, but yes, you can plug directly in.
Next question.
Douglas Carmichael's up next with this one. What mic arm would you recommend for the SM4, and how would you compare it with the SM7, and I guess in terms of weight?
So I'm using a boom arm right now on mine, but I have a mic stand just behind me here that's a more studio standard microphone stand. And in terms of weight, it is quite substantial. If I compare it to my SM7, the SM7B is still going to be heavier, but a standard boom arm would work. I'm using our Gator co-branded Shure boom arm right now. So it's heavy, but not excruciatingly so.
Yours isn't like a low profile arm.
It's actually huge, but I haven't just shot. No, it's a more substantial arm, which I really like because it can accommodate a ton of different scenarios. But I put it on this K&M stand as well, and it's also fine on there. So up to you on what you want in your shot, but it can work with any standard stand.
A question for you with the MV7, what would you recommend as a shock mount for that?
For the MV7 Plus, we actually redid the shock mount so it's a little bit less prone to handling noise. So I'm just using a standard mount on this. There is no shock mount added to this. But depending on your boom arm, like this one has this, well, you can't really see, but it has the spring element to it, which can introduce more noise in my experience. So I really enjoy this Gator boom arm because there isn't that picks up more of the tapping on the desk and accidental bumping of the microphone. So I would just recommend using one that doesn't have the springs, but it's much better with its isolation and lack of handling noise.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I noticed that it comes with a donut shock mount. Is that what you're using now, or is there a spider type shock mount for the SM4 as well?
This is the only one that the SM4 has available. It is.
I saw the one that I saw on online looked like that, which is like a donut that goes around. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah,
It goes
we have
around the
this one.
base. Yeah.
Yes.
But it
So
comes with
there's
a spider
two.
as well.
No,
okay.
so you can buy two variants. So what it comes with, so this is the SM4, and this comes with that little donut, as you're calling it, flange for mounting to a stand. And then the kit comes with the shock mount and the windscreen, and it comes in this really cool zipper pouch that has a compartment for all of those things.
That's a great upgrade, huh? And
Yeah.
one other question for the SM4, will it work on 12 volt Phantom or just 48 volt Phantom? Or does it
I
work in
believe
between?
just 48, Courtney, but I'd have to confirm that for you.
All right, thanks.
And what's the price between the base model and the kit?
$199 for the base and $249 for the kit.
Great. Next question.
Pedro G. Gonzalez III in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, is back with how much greater range do you experience switching between the passive directional antenna versus the active directional antenna?
That's another one that's outside of my area
it
of
sounds like we're going to have to
expertise.
get Shure Wireless on.
I know, yeah.
We'll talk to you about the
Yeah, high tier wireless is not my cup of tea, Pedro. But we do have a ton of experts that can answer that for you.
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, if I may just add to this discussion, the increased sensitivity on directional antennas is a product of it being directional as opposed to being omnidirectional. It's of course you have increased sensitivity in the direction of the pickup, and outside of the pickup pattern, you have rejection, so negative gain there. It being a passive, an antenna being an active antenna means it has a built-in amplifier in there. That amplifier is meant to overcome the loss that you get on a long coaxial cable run. It doesn't actually affect the pickup. The active part is to counteract the loss on the cable.
Next
That's
question.
right.
David Brady in New York City up next. Any input on the use cases you can define for the Microflex MXCW460, trying to see where we can make use of this in the corporate integration space?
That is a question for my conferencing team, which I am on the events and content small side of things. So I deal with microphones, but not the ones that go in the ceiling or on the tabletop. I apologize.
What I will say is that I had a couple of Microflex systems that we used when you will hear it. Like if you're listening to headphones and you know what you're listening for, you'll hear the bits going through. So it's not a music mic. So, but,
right.
Like you just, but I can always hear, like when I have a Microflex, I can always hear this, like very, very subtle. And most people would never hear it, and you would never hear it in a corporate environment. But if you have headphones on and you're listening for it, you'll hear it. Outside of that, they're magical. Like I had two systems, handheld, labs. I had the little desk mics, and you plug them in, you hit a button, and they all, just get defined. And then you put them out there, and they're for that kind of quick, fast, even for live streaming, they're great. Next question.
Aaron Cody in St. Louis, Missouri says, what directions do you expect to see Shure expand into in the next few years? Mixers, installed AV, possibly?
Aaron, that is a great question. And I will give you our prepared answer of we are always trying to innovate and bring new things to market. So you'll just have to stay tuned and see. But we are a very innovative company, being around since 1925, always keeping it fresh.
Yeah, I feel like I'm hoping that somebody will build. I mean, we have a lot of mics and we have a lot of interfaces and we have a lot of these things. What I know for us, what we really need is more tools that are very specific to podcasting and remote participants. That's the thing for us. Like I need to be able to send someone a box that connects to the internet and they can't touch it. Like, or I can deactivate all the buttons on the outside so that I can control it like it logs in, and preferably have that audio pass to me and record locally. And, double ending is like this hell that a lot of us are in all the time. There are tools that do it and no one does it very well. And so, and having interfaces have, even just interfaces with micro, SD cards would be life-changing for podcasting, because or mics. One of the things that that I pitched somebody, they didn't do it, is mics that have modems in them that is that tie back to a server system. So if you just tell me you're on mic 435, it'll route whatever it is. You have all these people, like if you're a politician, if NPR knew that if you had these mics and they had the server, it just means that it would just be capturing everything locally, slowly sipping it back to you, but also giving you a live connection over Wi-Fi or over preferably, or even modem, 5G or whatever. Those kinds of things for us would, man, go crazy. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I know that you can't do anything with that, but just
I
my 2 cents.
will take it back to the uppers. How about that?
So let's talk about mics and when you choose what mic. Now, well, actually, before I get into that, I want to ask you, is it true that you toured with Howard Jones?
Yes.
What did you do with Howard Jones?
I was his background singer.
Oh, that's so awesome.
He's a very innovative artist as well. And for those of you who are like, who is Howard Jones? Or if those of you are like, I totally know Howard Jones. I had to Google him when I got the gig. He knows this.
Were you blinded by science?
That's not him. That is actually another
Howard Jones
artist. No. Howard Jones was same iteration as that same time period, but he wrote a ton of songs, came out in 1983, and has always been very cutting edge, very synth driven. But he's not Thomas Dolby, who does Blinded
Thomas
Science.
Dolby. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Great artist
Howard
too.
Jones, those two sit in the same box in my head.
Yes, you're not alone.
For whatever reason. So Howard Jones is What Is Love, and
yes,
yeah, I
exactly.
know who it is. I just totally know my focus.
I did not. I had to Google him when I got the gig, which is embarrassing because then once I did, I was like, I know all of these songs.
Oh yeah.
But it's not like a name like Prince that like sticks in your memory. It's like Howard Jones.
Is there another name like Prince?
my neighbor Howard Jones. So anyway, yes, I did tour with him, and I was asked to tour with him because I was demonstrating a piece of wildly complicated vocal gear called Voice Live by TC Helicon, which allowed you to plug a microphone in and generate 4 voices of harmony from one voice.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What do you use nowadays to do the same thing?
I use the iteration of it called the Voice Live 3 Extreme.
So it's still the standard.
There are many who have done harmonizers. Other companies have done it. Helicon to me was the most natural sounding, and the Voice Live that I started demonstrating and using with Howard was very hard to program. But now it's so simple. I plug in, I play the guitar through it. It recognizes the chord and grabs key and scale information so that when I click the button, it's a foot switch, a multi-button foot switch. When I click the harmonies in, they're automatically in the right key. So it's a really fun creative tool, and using it on tour was really fun because we could add these, background vocalists that he had on all of his recordings with just one of me, and had it be kind of a fun magic trick for the audience too, because they're hearing it and they're like, where's that coming from? So he liked that element of it.
Is he on tour?
He is like all over my Instagram right now. So yes, he is actively touring. And I think he's got a 4-piece right now, and it's great.
That's great. So back to now we'll go back to mics. so picking mics. So I'm really fascinated with that, the Helicon. Anyway, so we'll maybe bring you back on. I don't know if Shure will be like, and then we brought her back on to talk about.
Well, I mean, yeah, because Helicon has no more. It was acquired by Behringer or Behringer, depending on how you say it. And so then it has subsequently become, no more, which is sad because it is an incredible company formed by guys who came from a company called IVL in Canada, in Victoria, more specifically. Mm-hmm. And they created TC Helicon, and they've since branched out and done some other cool things in that realm, but they're not all together anymore. The band's not together.
The band's not together.
Yeah.
So when you're choosing mics, what do you start to think about? Like, this is the kind of mic that you need if you're talking to someone about it. You did talk a little bit about the fact that with a MV7 Plus, that's in a place that, and this is what we send out. I mean, we haven't moved to the MV7 Plus just because we haven't bought new mics. Our next mics will all be, what we send out. We have MV7s. And we send them out for exactly the reason that you said, is that I don't know who I'm sending them to and what their room is like. And I'm going to send them something that has a USB connection that that is very forgiving for roomy rooms,
Yes, exactly. So for live performances, what I look for in a microphone is how it responds to my voice. And if I feel that the microphone makes it easier, or that I don't have to think about the microphone, I guess is a good way to say it, that is what feels the best to me. Like I use this microphone on stage. It's called the SM86, and it's one of our lesser known microphones. It's a stage condenser, but this with my particular instrument is just an extension of it. I don't feel like I have to, like I'm singing. I'm just being, and it picks up the voice and the nuances. But for me, the hardest thing about just sending microphones out or saying, here, this is the one for you, is that you really have to try it. And it's so hard, especially as a live performing vocalist, to do that, because you can't exactly go into a store, even though some of our dealers do have displays, to go into a store and try it is very unnerving, to just start belting out in a Guitar Center. It's going to be a little awkward. Yeah, if you have the opportunity as a performer to try multiple mics, make it happen, because you wouldn't, as an instrumentalist, just go into a store, pick a guitar off the wall and be like, oh yeah, I'll take this one, without playing it first. It's such a personal choice.
And how does it sound different from the 58?
Well, the SM86 has a boost in the high frequencies, so it's a little bit more present. The SM58 sounds a little more flat and muffled on my voice. I like it for spoken word, but not particularly for singing, although it can be EQ'd, which is why a lot of engineers like it, because they know exactly what to boost and what to pull back. Chris, I'm sure you could weigh in on that from your tenure. But the SM86 has a little bit more air to it, more presence. And just is a little lighter.
And how is it
term.
compared to the 58? How is its off-axis rejection?
They're both cardioid, so similar, very similar.
That's interesting. So then you have those are your live mics or stage mics, and then you start moving into the studio. And which ones do you kind of lean towards in the studio?
Well, I don't have a studio at the moment that is really friendly to a very high-end condenser, but I use the KSM32 to track, which is one of our side address condensers. But I just used the SM4 on this latest video that we're doing that I mentioned with Warren Huart. And
what's the video?
So it's a video that's going to be coming out that showcases the SM4 on a multitude of applications. So drums, guitar, bass, vocals. And it's a rock track. So I wanted to have something that was a little bit more edgy and bright. And this SM4 it fit the bill perfectly. So I was really happy with that.
That's great. Let's jump into the next questions.
Matt Parker in Sarasota, Florida. Up next, is there anything you can share with us about Shure's acquisition of Wavetool?
Yeah, absolutely. So Wavetool is an incredible tool that allows you to have full visual representation of all of your audio, RF, comms monitoring. So it's a really great tool for musical theater applications. You can see all of the packs, you can see all of the performers, but it's great for live performance as well, not just musical theater. But that's how it was, or why it was designed. And it's an interface that allows you to do that. You buy the license, you have access to it, and then you remotely can control all of your sources and see them in one spot and narrow in on them. So we acquired them, and it's been a really cool partnership, and I can't wait to see what comes out of it next. But no big secret there. We acquired them, and you can go to Shure.com and look up Wavetool and get some more info.
How much does it cost?
Oh, I don't know how much the licenses cost, Alex. That's a great question.
The website doesn't know either.
I know. Well, the website doesn't list it because you have to contact to see, what's the best fit.
It still sends you to Wavetool, so it's
yes.
still the purchase is in process.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got it. Next question.
Josh Kaufman in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania wonders, it seems like the headline feature, the latest SM4, is the Faraday cage to combat modern sources of interference. Does the Nexadyne line have this tech as well, or has it been developed since its release?
That's a great question. It does not have that same technology. It is patent pending on the SM4, but I know that the Nexadyne has an improved cage within the microphone itself, which I happen to have right here, so you can see. But it's different. Is the the answer for today's for those playing at home? That's the Nexadyne screen.
I think. Weren't you showing the new mic that you said a K-pop band was testing?
I don't know. Last time I was on?
Here? Last time you were on?
I don't remember. But the Nexadyne has been well adopted now that it's been out for a few months. We had been beta testing it with several high-profile tours and acts, and it's being welcomed with open arms and getting some really good traction.
I saw them on a show.
Yeah, all right. And you're like, I know that.
Yeah,
so my kids do. Sure, Mike.
Show,
They,
we're going to K-pop.
out.
Like, I know what those mics are.
Yes.
So anyway, next question.
Daniel Patridge in Rochester, Minnesota. Company has about 50 SM57 or 58 microphones in various ages. We may have some fakes in the mix thanks to sticky fingers. Best way to ID fakes? There are lots of confusing info out there.
That's a great question. I don't know if we have that in our find and answer section of the site. I mean, we actively combat counterfeit, but I don't know how to spot it. So if you want to call or submit a support ticket through Shure.com, they can help you identify it, but we don't have serial numbers too. So I am not the authority there either, but I'm just looking on our find and answer too to see how you identify it. But that's a great way to do it, is to head to Shure.com.
What was the choice about not having serial numbers on the mics?
I don't know. Not really a choice, but we are moving more towards that, believe it or not. Almost 99 years in.
Longer conversations and customs.
Right. There you go.
Well, no, I'm saying when we don't have a serial number, it's a longer conversation. Like having a number on it is kind of important. Like I'll have a box of SM58s. And we ended up putting what looked like serial numbers on them so that we could, they were hard metal serial numbers on them that we just made up. And then, but we then put them, because we have a carnet, and the carnet, they'll go, hey, where's this? Where's this?
Yeah, where's this?
And they want a serial number connected to that. And in most countries, they don't care. They'll just go, okay, it's fine. In Germany, they ask more questions. They're very specific in Germany.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the one thing I would say is that we really do like serial numbers, and it seems odd, but it allows us to track them. So we had to put something on them so that we could track them, but we knew which mic is which, but also primarily because of customs and carnets. So
yes,
something to think about.
Well, if you're concerned, you can call 1-800-25-SHURE, SHURE, or you can go to service.shure.com/contact support to find out more.
Next question.
Chris Chellen in Chicago here on the panel. Where can I find a Shure Level-loc?
Oh, you. Nice, Chris. I don't know, but if you find one, let me know. No, that is a very cool piece of gear. And
what is it?
You guys have one in the museum at headquarters.
We do. Chris, why don't you share why you want a Level-loc?
The Level-loc is a really cool, very, very discontinued, very old leveler. And so it's in this weird spot between compression and limiting, more of a limiter, but it's essentially, it was really, I believe, just meant for speakers to really, really be able to hold things in place. I mean, Shure is an incredible company, and their history in microphones and why they made microphones is actually it's just a museum in itself, and they have a museum actually. But it was mainly it was for tank operators. It was the main purpose of Shure mics, from what I understand, was so you could actually, in a tank, you could clearly hear and speak to other people, while you were firing a tank, right? So, I mean, it's so you look at that, I bet that sounds awesome on a kick drum, right? So there's all these different uses, and I would say kind of backtracking a little bit into some of what Laura was discussing before, as far as like microphone choices and things of that, remember that there's a ton of different environments and there's a ton of different goals in whatever you're trying to achieve. So it's really, really important to kind of get a basic grasp of that stuff before you make an approach, because your step one thing might be in the wrong direction. So it's important to understand the fundamentals of this stuff, but it's really, your room acoustics are everything, right? So already, and Laura can tell you, like a lot of what she just said in just choosing between these two different microphones, i.e. like a condenser versus a dynamic mic, is if you have a terrible sounding room, as distance grows from that dynamic mic, stuff drops in volume. So your horrible room reflections are going to be way less in a dynamic microphone than in that really clean and bright condenser. So that's a thing to think of. There's a lot of these just variables to consider, but you can really kind of optimize things for whatever you want if you get your room correct, if you get working quality preamps, and it just all of a sudden your palettes and choices, because most of Shure mics, I just cut records with every day. I just did the new Los Only Boys record, mostly with Shure microphones. Jimmy Chamberlain's studio that I just helped him design, mostly Shure mics.
Laura, do you guys have a studio? Do you have a recording studio inside of Shure that you do tests
We do.
with? And
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We have
Very
an
nice.
entire department that is quality control. And it's not like a small department. There are multiple engineers in there that do torture tests to our microphone that
They're so cool.
would crush your soul. No, they're very cool. We test with fake synthetic perspiration to see how microphones withstand moisture and sweat. We test by dropping it. We test by crushing it.
And do you have a recording studio? Do you ever try to record
we do.
a full-on recording studio?
Oh, yeah. We have a recording studio in our Niles facility that's used daily for testing and for community projects. So we don't rent it out, by the hour or anything. But yes, it is always in use and very difficult to get into as one who has asked and tried to book it. Yes, very
They've
busy.
got an S6 and blue horns, Meyer blue horns. It's awesome.
We just did that about a year or 2 years ago.
Super fun.
Yes.
Can you test how long the beer smell lasts in the microphone?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there have been various tests like that.
The anechoic chambers are the best.
Yes.
How big is your anechoic chamber?
We have two, and then we have an RF anechoic, or an RF chamber, I should say. I don't know the specs of it, but it's large enough to hold 10 people, 8 people, I think is the capacity. And it is terrifying in there. If anyone's gone to an anechoic chamber, it is very unsettling.
It's like a Spider-Man web over the city in that room.
It is.
It is.
I think you should just that's the new employees. See how long when they first get there, how long can they last before they tap out?
That's a
someone
good
has
one.
as someone who has tinnitus, it's never silent for me. So
it would
doesn't
be
bother me at all.
painful.
I just listen to my tinnitus. I just tune in. Next question.
Peter Moore, Auckland, New Zealand. In terms of miking up guitar cabinets in a studio for anything from cleans to metal, what mic would you recommend for those different genres?
Ooh, I mean, Chris, I'm a ribbon fan, but I don't know about you. What's your favorite for mic and guitar?
It totally depends. It totally depends. What's the job?
Yeah.
Like, what's the thing? What's the amp? So the first thing
That's true, yeah.
is, what does the guitar sound like in the amp before you even think about microphones? That's the first thing always. If it doesn't sound amazing, no one should be talking about microphones yet. You should be correcting that amp sound like 1,000%, because you can put a $20,000 mic on it and it's going to sound horrible, right? So if it's not right. So that's the first thing. And I mean, again, most Shure mics just work. I have to say, one of my favorite microphones ever are the Beta 181 lollipops.
Yes.
In cardioid. So I mean, like we have on Jimmy Chamberlain, I use that on snare top, and his toms are all in super, which those work really, really well. You can hammer nails with those, just like 57s. They are really robust mics, and the amount of like material that they will take is without bottoming out. I mean, a ton of low end information in a beautiful way. Overheads, you can actually feel the weight in overheads, which is in a live concert setting, which is really like, that's fundamentally really important. I mean, it's a big thing. So as far as guitars, you want to look at the style of thing you're doing. 57s work. They always work. If you can't make it work with a 57, I guarantee you that's not your problem. So it's really a lot of this stuff is, I mean, KSM 32s are amazing on amps. Beta 181s are amazing on amps. 57s are amazing on amps. It's, you know, I'll say for vocal mics, Beta 57As are probably my favorite vocal mic in a live setting, like hands down. Absolutely. I can get additional like 6 or 8 dB of gain on a quiet singer with that microphone easily. And so can my monitor engineers. So it's just like, it really depends on what you're doing. The Nexadyne stuff also is very cool. The handling suppression in that you can just tell. I'm telling you, fire up a wedge really hard and chuck one of those things on the ground. It's the first thing I did when I was beta testing them. You can tell exactly what they do. And it's right. This stuff Shure is amazing because if there's a forest fire, they literally drop mics into it and let them burn for a week and then go get them again and see if they work. And that is something I can get behind very much. So,
wow, that is a testimonial I have never heard before. We don't advocate doing that. Do not light your mics on fire.
No, that's a Lee Scratch Perry job. He does that.
Oh, gosh. But yes, we do torture test our microphones quite a bit.
Next question.
Watch out, Laura. Pitch coming. Pedro G. Gonzalez III in Oklahoma City says, how does one volunteer to become a brand ambassador and get free products for beta testing purposes only, of course?
Of course, right. You can. We do have an affiliate program, although I think we don't have our link up there because I'm looking right now. So let me, it's not up there right now. I am that unwilling volunteer person at Shure who fields all of those requests. So if you can find me, you can make your request. No, we are always looking for people who want to work with the brand. And it's basically, you know, if you have a good follower base and you fit in with our audience and you fit in with our products, we love finding new beta testers to work with. So you can reach out to me. I don't know if they can find me or you guys provide that info. Please don't give them my home address. And that'd be great.
Cell phone number, please.
Please no. Please no.
Next Peter Moore in Auckland, New Zealand has the next one. Does Shure have mics for drum kits?
We do. We have a few kits actually that are pre-configured, but there are some that you could put together yourself. But if you go to Shure.com under products and wired mics, you can start there with your journey and it'll kind of help you hone in on what you're looking for a solution. But there is a PGA version and there's a beta version. The PGA drum kit 7 is a 7-piece and there's a PGA drum kit 5 as well. And then the DMK 57, 52, which is my personal fave, which is SM57s and the Beta 52. I think I'm remembering all of that. So yes, is the easy answer.
Anything to add there, Chris?
Oh yeah, I mean they have so many drum choices, and yeah, they do have a bunch of kits that you can get. I'll say definitely for so we've got Mickey is showing an SM81. That's clearly his choice.
There you go.
SM81s are great for overheads, and actually I used to use them for vocal mics on WFMT on TTW broadcast live, but there's a ton of things. I will say the best kick drum mic ever to me is a Beta 91A. And if I only in a recording studio setting, in a live setting, whatever dude, give me that mic and I'm just set on there. But like there's a ton of options. There's great tom options too. There's Beta 98s, which bottom snare. Beta 98s are just killer. That is an incredible microphone for that. I see Mickey's holding up his Beta 91A, which is the best.
There you go.
And again, it's really it's get that microphone, everyone. It's really affordable. It will last forever, and it just sounds better than most things. So it's amazing. So and. God, yeah. I mean, there's just a ton of options. 57s will work on every drum. You can use them essentially, it can be a little tough. I've put them in kick drums before, but you can absolutely use them on hi-hats. You can use them for overheads. You can do, right? Is the drummer good? Is the song good? Get microphones in place and act accordingly. That's what it is, you know?
Laura, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
It's so good to have you on again. So anytime you guys have something new, or if you have just something that you've been pondering you want to talk to us about, we'd love to have you on. You're just it's so great to have you.
Thank you. I love being here, so I appreciate it.
And thanks to our panel for the great first hour, by the way. If you came in for the second hour, it was a really protein-rich first hour of answers and questions. And so thanks to the panel for that. And thanks to the producers who were asking all those questions. We didn't even get through all the questions the producers asked. Remember that if you asked them and we didn't get to them, they went into your notes. Or they went to, if you're a QR code, back to and we'll bring them back in tomorrow. Or you can bring them back in tomorrow if they're inside of Makana. So bring those back in. We'll address them tomorrow if we can. And thank you to the incredible team on the back end. Of course, there's a team that's managing who's coming on. There's the teams that are developing the pipelines that make this show work. There are teams that are actually cutting the show and making sure that it all happens and prepping the guests and all those bits and pieces. And it's a small village every single day that makes this possible. And we really appreciate everybody's contribution. 7 days a week. We haven't missed a day since March 25th, 2020. So it's just an incredible run. We plan to keep going. So thank you all for your contribution. Today, the tall traversal, if we had done this in person, walking from each person to each person answering these questions, we would have traveled 93,000 miles. That's 149,000 kilometers. And that is 735 million bananas for scale. All right, let's go ahead and jump into After Hours. Thanks, Laura. It was great.
Thanks, Laura.
Fun show. Thanks.
Great
On
job,
to my
Laura.
next meeting.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, thank you so much.
Bye.
What's the maximum SPL of a banana? We don't know.
Oh, that's a
For
good question.
scale.
You can only
3 dB
so
less than a
banana. I make
plantain.
you feel bad.
Depends on how much you smush it. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's like, does it turn brown? Like you start yelling at it and just like, so anyway, all right. See you guys.